Hello there, my dear ones. Thank you for listening to my story today. Where are you joining me from? Is it morning where you are? Or maybe the evening breeze is touching your window like it does here in Mombasa. If you are sitting somewhere quiet, grab some tea because what I am about to tell you, it is not just a story. It is a piece of my heart, carved by time, betrayal, and something people here call upendo wa mama, a mother's love that refuses to die. Sometimes, life teaches you things you never asked to learn. Have you ever looked at your own child and wondered, how did this heart that once beat under mine grow so cold? Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that when they broke that trust, it felt like the world tilted under your feet? Ah, that was me, Mama Helen Njoroge. And this is the story of how my own daughter almost sold my soul, hidden in the walls of my home. I live, or should I say lived, in Old Town Mombasa, a place where the sea breathes stories into the air. If you walk down my street in the morning, you can smell cardamom, fried fish, and salt carried by the wind. Children run barefoot, laughing. Women in colorful Keating fabrics gossip at the well, and men shout "Karibu" from the shops as the matatus pass by. It is a noisy, loving kind of place, the kind where everyone knows everyone's business. And for most of my life, that little coral stone house on Camas Lane was all I had. It was not big, but it was mine. My late husband, God rest his soul, built it with his hands when we were still young. I can still hear his hammer against the walls some nights, when the sea wind gets too strong. After he passed away, 15 years ago now, I raised my only child, my daughter, Helen Njoroge, with every ounce of strength I had left. She was my pride, my reason for waking before dawn, selling mangoes, cleaning houses, tutoring neighborhood children, anything to keep food on the table. When she was small, she used to say, "Mama, one day I will buy you a big house by the sea." I would laugh, stroke her cheek, and say, my child, just grow with kindness. That will be enough." I thought I had raised her right. I thought love was enough. But time has a way of showing you what is hidden inside people's hearts. Helen grew up bright and beautiful, maybe too beautiful for her own good. When she finished school, she moved to Nairobi for work. Every time she came back home, she looked different. New clothes, new nails, new dreams. "Mombasa is too small for me," she used to say, flipping her hair and laughing with her phone in hand. "Ah, Mama, you should sell this old house and come live with me in the city." I would smile and say, "No, my child. These walls have memories. They breathe your father's laughter. I cannot sell that." She would sigh, roll her eyes, and go back to scrolling her screen. Then last year, just before the rains came, my body betrayed me. I had been feeling weak for days, but I told myself it was just the heat. The coastal sun can melt your bones sometimes. One afternoon, I fainted while selling vegetables near Marikiti Market. When I woke up, I was in Coast General Hospital with machines beeping around me and Helen sitting beside the bed. She looked worried, I could tell, but there was something else in her eyes too, something I couldn't name at the time. Fear, maybe, or calculation. She held my hand and said, "Mama, don't worry. I'll take care of everything. You just rest." Those words, "I'll take care of everything." I didn't know that was the beginning of everything falling apart. For 2 weeks, I stayed in that hospital. The nurses were kind. They called me Shosho, Grandma, even though I still like to think of myself as young inside. Each night I would whisper prayers for Helen, that she'd find peace, love, and a good man. I didn't know, at that same time, my daughter was whispering something very different to someone else. While I lay in that bed, she began visiting a man named Mr. Baraka Mwangi. You see, Baraka was one of those smooth-talking businessmen in town who always knew who was sick, who was dying, and who had property worth taking. People said he had eyes like a cat, watching, waiting. He had already bought 2 old houses on our street, turning them into rental lodges for tourists. He knew my house too. Old, solid, near the ocean, perfect for his next project. And when Achieng walked into his office one afternoon, desperate and greedy, it was like 2 snakes found each other. I didn't know any of this then, of course. I only started sensing something strange when Achieng's visits to the hospital grew shorter. She would rush in, smile too brightly, ask if I needed anything, then check her phone every few seconds. One night, she forgot it on my bed when she went to talk to a nurse. I shouldn't have looked, but my heart told me to. And there it was, a message on the screen from Mr. Baraka. "Once the papers are ready, call me." Don't worry, she won't need to know. My hands trembled. My heart sank so deep I could barely breathe. But I said nothing. I just closed the phone and laid it back quietly. Because sometimes silence is stronger than anger. I told myself, wait, Helen, just wait. The next morning, Achieng came with fresh fruit and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. She said, "Mama, the doctor says you can go home next week." I smiled too. "That's good, my child. But tell me, what have you been so busy with lately?" She laughed nervously. Nothing serious, Mama, just helping a friend." Her voice shook a little. She didn't notice that I noticed. When I finally left the hospital, my body was weak, but my mind, sharper than ever. The sun over Mombasa looked the same. The palm trees swayed as they always did. But something in the air felt wrong. Too quiet. Too polished. As soon as we reached home, I saw new paint on the gate. The house number had been changed slightly, and there was a for sale sign hidden behind the hibiscus bush. My chest tightened. My lips went dry. I turned to Achieng and asked, "Hey, what is this?" She smiled too quickly. Mama, don't worry. Just some workers cleaned the place while you were away." I nodded, pretending to believe her. But that night when she slept, I went outside with my flashlight. The sign was real and fresh. The next morning, I saw a stranger taking pictures of my home from across the street. He didn't even greet me. Days passed. I watched quietly. Every time someone knocked on the gate, Achieng would rush before me, smiling, whispering outside for minutes before returning. She thought I was too old to notice. But old age is not blindness. It is experience wrapped in wrinkles. One afternoon, while she was out running errands, my neighbor Mama Asha came knocking. She sells fish at the market and always knows what's happening before the radio does. She leaned close and whispered, "Hey, Mama Helen, are you really selling your house?" I froze. "Selling? Who told you that?" She looked around, lowered her voice even more. "People say your daughter already met that Baraka man. They even saw them having lunch near Lighthouse." My stomach twisted. "You're sure?" She nodded. "I only tell you because you are my sister. Be careful. That man, he eats people's homes. When Achieng came home that evening, I watched her walk. Too confident, too polished. She had a new handbag, new shoes. She greeted me with a fake smile. "Mama, how was your rest?" I smiled back. "Fine, my child, fine." And that's when I made my decision. If she wanted to play games, I would play too, but with wisdom, not lies. That night, I went into my bedroom and opened the old trunk beneath my bed. Inside were my husband's papers, carefully kept in plastic. Among them, the original deed to our home. And I smiled. Because Achieng did not know that years ago before he died, my husband and I had put the property in both our names. And later, I had placed it in a small trust under my name, registered by the church lawyer. No one could sell it without my signature. My late husband used to say, "Helen, protect this home like it's your child." Now I realized my child had become the one to protect it from. I slept lightly that night, waiting for whatever would come next. And it came soon enough. 3 days later, I was sitting in my chair by the window when a shiny black car stopped outside. A man in a suit, Baraka Mwangi himself, stepped out, sunglasses reflecting the whole street. He looked around like a lion claiming new land. Achieng rushed to the door before I could move. I could hear their voices, low, tense, excited. Then Baraka said loudly, "We can sign the documents today. I have the cash ready." That word, cash, it hit me like thunder. I took a deep breath and rose from my chair. The tide outside had gone out. The air was heavy with salt and truth. I opened my door quietly and walked toward the sound of their laughter. Achieng turned and froze. Baraka removed his glasses slowly. He had not expected to see me standing there, alive, steady, watching. I said, "Ah, Mr. Baraka, Karibu. You are most welcome in my home." My voice was calm, but I could feel my heartbeat in my fingertips. He stammered, "Ah, Mama Helen, I didn't know you were back," I smiled. "Clearly. Because I hear my home has become quite popular lately." Achieng's face turned pale. "Mama, I can explain." I raised my hand. "No need. The sea brings back everything it takes. Let us see what it brought today." And that, my friends, was the moment I knew the real storm had just begun. Ah, my dear ones, have you ever watched the face of someone you love crumble when the truth walks in? It's a strange kind of silence. Not the peaceful one before sleep, but the heavy one before a storm. That's how it was that afternoon. The sea was calm, the gulls were quiet, and my daughter stood there, frozen, caught between shame and greed. Baraka cleared his throat first. "Mama Helen," he said with that businessman smile, "there seems to be some small misunderstanding. We were only discussing possibilities." "Possibilities?" I asked, stepping closer. "Then why did you bring documents for my house, and not your manners?" He shifted his weight, pretending to laugh. "Ah, you are a strong woman, Mama. I respect that. But your daughter told me you were ready to sell. I thought—" "You thought wrong," I said. Then I looked at Achieng. "And you, my child, what did you think?" For a moment she said nothing. Her eyes darted between me and Baraka. "Mama," she whispered, "I was only trying to help." "You were sick, the hospital bills," I cut her off softly. "Bills that were already paid, Achieng." I spoke to the nurse before I left. "You never paid a cent." Her lips trembled. The mask was slipping. "Mama, please, you don't understand." I sighed. "Then help me understand." But she couldn't, because every word she had was built on lies. Baraka tried to take control again. "Mama, I'm sure we can settle this without drama. I'm a fair man. If you sign now, I'll even offer you an extra—" That's when I laughed. A deep, long, tired laugh that came from my belly. "Do I look like a woman who sells her memories for a few notes of paper?" I asked him. He frowned, uncomfortable. I pointed toward the gate. "Leave my compound, Mr. Mwangi, and take your shadow with you." He hesitated, then looked at Achieng one last time. "Call me when you think clearly," he muttered, then walked out, his car engine cutting through the silence like a knife. When the sound faded, only the waves and our breathing filled the air. Achieng's eyes were glassy. "Mama, you embarrassed me," she said. I shook my head. "No, my child. You embarrassed yourself." She turned away, pacing, hands shaking. "You don't understand how hard life is out there. You sit in this old house while the world moves forward. You don't see what people have, what I could have had if—" "If what?" I interrupted. "If you sold your mother's home behind her back?" Her voice cracked. "You always held me back. You made me small." That one cut deep. I looked at her, my own child, the baby I once rocked through fever nights, now standing there like a stranger. And I realized something painful. She wasn't just greedy. She was lost. That night, she locked herself in her room. I sat in the living room holding my husband's old photo. The lantern light flickered on his smiling face. "Oh, my Samuel," I whispered. "What did we do wrong?" The waves outside kept hitting the shore, slow, relentless like the heartbeat of time itself. I thought about how love can blind us, how we raise our children hoping they'll become better versions of us, and yet sometimes they turn into the very storm we protected them from. The next morning, I woke early. Ah-Cheng was gone, her door wide open, bed cold. I found a note on the table. "I can't live like this anymore. Don't worry about me. I'll make my own way." I felt a tear roll down, not of anger but of something heavier, disappointment. She had taken her suitcase and, I later learned, some of my jewelry too. I didn't chase her. Sometimes a bird must fly into the storm to know what shelter means. Days passed. Then weeks. I went back to my quiet life, tending to my small garden, selling mangoes again by the corner. Neighbors asked where Ah-Cheng had gone, and I just said, "She's finding herself." But inside, I prayed every night that the world would be kind to her. I told myself she would realize what she'd done and come home. But fate, as always, had its own plans. 2 months later, a letter came. No, not from Ah-Cheng, from the land registrar's office. It said someone had attempted to transfer ownership of my property using forged documents. My blood ran cold. I went straight to the office, papers in hand, and showed them the original deed. The officer looked at me and said, "Mama, you are lucky. Most old people lose their homes this way." I asked who filed the fake transfer. He hesitated, then whispered, "Your daughter's name was on the form." That day, I walked home in silence. Every footstep felt heavier than the last. I had thought betrayal ended with that man Baraka, but I was wrong. My daughter had gone deeper. She was willing to steal even from the dead memory of her father. That night, I sat outside, watching the moonlight shimmer on the sea. I spoke to the wind as we coastal women often do. "Why, my child, why?" The air was still, but I could almost hear my husband's voice in the waves. Truth always comes home. "Helen, even if it takes the long road." A week later, I heard rumors that Baraka had been arrested for a property scam. Apparently, he had defrauded several families, selling land that wasn't his. Among the evidence, police found my daughter's name on a list of accomplices. My knees went weak. Neighbors started whispering again. "Hey, Mama Helen, did you hear? Your daughter was involved with that man." I pretended not to know. But inside, my heart was cracking in slow motion. 2 nights after that, I heard a knock on my door. When I opened it, there she was, Ah-Cheng, thin, tired, eyes swollen from crying. "Mama," she whispered, "please don't close the door." I didn't. I just stood there, waiting. She stepped in, dropped to her knees, and began to sob. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said. "He promised me we'd make enough money to move you somewhere better. But when he was caught, they said I helped him." "I didn't, Mama, I swear." Her words tumbled out like stones. I let her speak until her voice broke. Then I said softly, "Stand up, my daughter." She looked up at me, eyes red. I helped her to her feet, and for a moment, she leaned into my arms like she used to when she was little. "Mama, I'm sorry," she said. "I was so foolish." I brushed her hair gently. Foolishness is not a crime if you learn from it. But greed eats the soul, she nodded, trembling. "Will they take me to prison?" "Maybe," I said honestly. "But I will tell them the truth, that you were lost, not evil. After that, it's between you and God." She wept harder, clinging to me. The next morning, I went with her to the police station. She confessed everything. The officer looked surprised when I said, "Please, handle her gently. She is still my child." That day, they released her on bail, and I signed the papers as guarantor. When we left the station, the sun was hot, but I felt cold inside. Forgiveness. It's a strange thing. It hurts before it heals. That night, she cooked for the first time in years. Ugali and fried fish, just like her father loved. We ate quietly. The sound of the waves outside felt softer, like they were listening too. After dinner, she said, "Mama, if you never forgive me, I'll understand." I looked at her long and hard. "Child, a mother doesn't forgive. She just keeps loving." She began to cry again. I didn't stop her. Some tears are necessary. In the days that followed, she stayed with me, helping around the house. People in the neighborhood gossiped, of course, but I didn't care. Let them talk. Let them think whatever they want. What they didn't know was that this house, the one everyone thought was a curse between us, had become a place of redemption. She started going to church again, helping Mama Asha at the fish stall, trying to rebuild her name. And I started to believe maybe this storm was ending. But I should have known better. Peace is never permanent when greed has tasted blood. Because one night, just when the moon was new and the tide low, I heard her whispering on the phone again. Her voice was low, urgent. "No, not yet," she said. "She still thinks everything is fine. Just give me 2 more weeks." I froze. The phone call ended. She didn't see me standing behind the curtain. The betrayal, it seemed, was not done. My dear ones, when you live long enough, you learn that betrayal doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it comes in whispers, in late-night phone calls, in the sound of someone you love closing a door too softly. That night when I heard Achieng's voice behind the curtain, my body froze. My heart said, "Not again," but my mind whispered, "Listen, Helen. Don't shout. Don't move. Just listen." So I stood there, quiet as the shadows. She was pacing, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes," she said. "I told you Mama doesn't suspect anything. She trusts me again. We can do it differently this time. Not through Baraka's people. I already have another buyer in Nairobi." My knees almost gave way. It was happening again. The same house, the same greed, the same blindness. When she ended the call, she walked to her room, humming softly like a child after stealing sugar. And I stood there, staring at the ceiling, feeling my soul grow tired. You see, forgiveness is heavy. It weighs down the heart when it's given to someone who doesn't value it. That night, I didn't sleep. I went to my husband's photo again. "Samuel," I whispered. "I did what a mother should. I forgave her. But maybe love is not enough this time." The sea outside roared as if to answer me. The next morning, I went to town early, to the chief's office. There I met an old friend, Mr. Mutiso, who once worked with my husband at the council. I told him everything. Every word, every lie, every phone call. He listened quietly, then leaned forward. "Helen," he said, "I can help you, but you must be strong. You're not just dealing with greed now. You're dealing with someone who's lost respect for you." I nodded. "I have one more test to give her," so we made a plan. A quiet, clever plan. That evening, I told Achieng I had a surprise. "I spoke to someone in Nairobi," I said. "He wants to buy the house for a good price. Maybe you were right, child. Maybe it's time I move somewhere smaller." Her eyes lit up. I saw that old fire again, the same greed masked as excitement. "Mama, really?" she said, trying to hide her smile. "Yes," I said softly. "Really?" She hugged me, tight, too tight, and for a brief second, I felt that small girl she once was. But even snakes can curl up warm before they strike. 2 days later, I arranged for the buyer to visit. It was, of course, no buyer at all, just my friend Mutiso dressed sharply, pretending to be one. He came with official-looking folders and spoke like a man used to dealing with property. Achieng played her part perfectly. She welcomed him, brought juice, and started talking about our home, her tone smooth and confident. Mutiso said, "So, you both own the house, yes?" Before I could open my mouth, she jumped in. Yes, my mother and I, but she's ready to transfer everything to me soon." Her words burned, but I kept smiling. "Ah," Mutiso said, pretending to jot notes. "Then we should start the process right away." He took out some documents. I watched as her eyes followed them like a hawk. She thought she was winning, and that's when I decided to end the act. I turned to her and said quietly, "Achieng, before you sign anything, I want you to bring me something from the drawer, the black envelope." She went and fetched it. Inside were 2 letters. One I had written years ago when her father died. The other, written last night. I took her hand and said, "Read this first." It was the letter from her father, the one I'd kept sealed all these years. He had written, "If ever our child forgets the meaning of home, remind her that this house was built with love, not bricks. If she sells it, she sells her own story." Achieng's lips trembled. "Mama, where did this come from?" I smiled sadly. "From the man who built this roof over your head. The man you barely remember." Then I handed her the second letter, my own. It said, "My dearest child, I forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. But peace does not mean blindness. From this day, this house will belong to the community, to the orphan girls at St. Mary's Home. They will live here, laugh here, grow here. You wanted to sell my home for money. I will give it away for love." She read it twice before she understood. Her eyes widened. "Mama, what have you done?" "I've done what you could not. Let go of greed," I said quietly. She shook her head, stepping back. "You can't. This is our house." "No," I said. "It was our house. Now it will belong to those who will cherish it." Mutiso stood silent, watching the storm unfold. Achieng broke down. "Mama, please don't do this. I was wrong. I'll change." Tears rolled down her face. But I had seen those tears before, the kind that dry too quickly when money appears. Still, my heart softened. "Child," I said, "I'm not punishing you. I'm saving you, because if you had sold this house, the curse of greed would have followed you forever. But now you are free of it. Start over, clean." She fell to her knees, sobbing. "I don't know how to live without this place." I bent down, placed my hand on her head, and whispered, "Then learn. The world is wide, my daughter. Go and build something of your own, something that no one can sell." That night after she left, I sat by the window. The sea wind carried the smell of rain. In the distance, I could hear the faint laughter of the orphan girls who would soon call this place home. And for the first time in a long time, the house felt alive again, not because of ownership, but because of purpose. A week later, the paperwork was done. The deed was transferred to St. Mary's Home under my signature and the church's seal. The old house of Helen White, once almost stolen by her own blood, became a place of refuge for children with none. As for Achieng, she left Mombasa. I hear she works now in Kisumu, helping a small community center. Sometimes she calls. Her voice sounds softer these days. Maybe she finally learned. Maybe she finally found herself in me? I still sit by the window, telling my stories to anyone who will listen. Like you, my dear ones. Because stories, you see, are also houses. We build them to protect our memories. And if someone tries to steal them, we build new ones, stronger, wiser. So tonight, wherever you are, but whether you sit in a big city or a small village, remember this. Greed may give you gold, but it takes your peace. Forgiveness may hurt, but it frees your soul. And a mother's love? Ah, that love. It survives even the fire of betrayal. Thank you for listening, my children. The tide has gone out, the night is quiet, and Mama Helen can finally rest.